avoiding history repeating itself. In 1980, the communist leader of Yugoslavia, Tito, died, which essentially led to the entire country falling into economic despair. So in 1992, Bosnia and Herzegovina wanted to become independent of Yugoslavia. So this area wanted to become independent of essentially what was at the time this entire area of Yugoslavia. The majority of the country was ethnically Bosniaks and Croats, and so when they voted to become this this independent country, this angered the Bosnian Serbs because they wanted to remain a part of the Serb-dominated Yugoslavia, which was obviously Serbia. So at this point, the Bosnian Serbs created an armed resistance called Republika Srpska. And then there was this ethnic cleansing of all Serbs. And eventually in 1995, after this three-sided conflict got really messy, there was the Srebrenica genocide where about 8,000 plus Bosnians were killed, and there were NATO airstrikes. And so in December 1995, the United States was finally able to negotiate the Dayton Accords, which essentially divided Bosnia into two main political identities. So Bosnia and Herzegovina, which was primarily the Bosnians and the Croats, and then Republika Srpska, which was the Serbians. So all of this background is super important to understand because there's currently an escalating threat of Serbian nationalism, escalating again under Milorad Dodik, who is the now leader of Republika Srpska. A secession of Republika Srpska could lead to destabilization in the region, so that escalating of the conflict between Bosnians and Serbians, but also an expansion of Russia's sphere of influence. Due to the Dayton peace agreements, either Bosnia and Herzegovina or Republika Srpska can veto national policy, but both have to answer to the Office of the High Representative, which is the Western-run body that is also allowed to change Bosnia's laws. So this is what Dodik is using to his advantage, vetoing efforts to integrate into NATO and pulling his own territories, so kind of here, out of the government's judicial, custom, and security institutions. In 2023, he finally faced resistance from the Office of the High Representative and amended the country's legal code to make disobeying the orders a crime. Then, in February of this year, they used the same amendment to convict Dodik of disobeying their orders, sentencing him to a year in prison and banning him from holding office for 6. But instead of turning himself in, he just had Republika Srpska ban the Bosnian state courts, the prosecutor's office, high judicial and prosecutorial court, police, and state institutions from operating in his territory. He's proposed amendments to the Constitution that would create their own independent army, border police, and special prosecutor's office with intelligence. Bosnia has asked Interpol to get involved, so the international police, but they've refused because they're facing pressure from Serbia. So as of this point, he's still avoided arrest. If Bosnia takes on Dodik, they risk a war, but if they don't, they're essentially dismantling their remaining institutions. So really, it's a lose-lose situation for Bosnia. All of this matters because everybody in the map that was up here also cares about what happens in Bosnia and Herzegovina. Serbia's leader, Vučić, is in favor of the split because he wants to reunite Serbia for a greater Serbia. Hungary's prime minister is for the conflict because he wants to build a coalition of illiberal leaders in Europe and essentially fight back against the status quo. Putin is also in favor of it because he wants to destabilize the Balkans in order to challenge Europe's security. Here, we can see Dodik using strategy 7, transform your war into a crusade. He's motivating people to think less of themselves and more of the group, uniting them against their perceived enemy and making them believe that their survival is tied to the collective. So essentially, because Serbia has this rise in nationalism, that nationalism is the driving force, which would lead to conflict against these other ethnic groups. Talk is cheap, and now is the time for action. So what steps can Western countries take? 1, they can help reform the Bosnian constitution, allowing the central government to not be as constrained. Western institutions, through the Office of High Representatives, can strengthen and make sure that that veto mechanism isn't abused by an entity or ethnic group like it was with Dodik in this situation. 2, they can strengthen Bosnia's national institution by creating a prime minister and different ministries to handle their national affairs so that it's not just one centralized government. 3, the West can punish secessionists by implementing more sanctions, and they can also expand their physical presence in the countries by sending peacekeepers to either assist Bosnian authorities with Dodik or preventing Vucic in the Hungarian border from coming in and becoming involved. 4, Europe and the United States can help strengthen Bosnia's security and defense through a quadrilateral partnership with Norway, who is an important entity because they have a lot of Serbian immigrants who care about this cause, Turkey and the UK, to provide security until Bosnia is able to join NATO. Addressing Dodik's aggression now is far cheaper than dealing with a full-scale conflict later on. The United States is reluctant to act because of its isolationist policy, but at the end of the day, this is a test for Europe. Can it handle its own security, or will it allow the Balkans to once again spiral into chaos, repeating history?